Taylor Swift, right? Always down for some clicks from the Swifties, the
Yep.
Swifties. They go on.
Yeah, the Swifties.
So,
Yeah.
so just to give you an idea, just how powerful her Taylor Swift and her kind of organization, right? And when I say organization, I don't mean from a business standpoint. I just mean her fans, right? Because they move like an organization. So recently, a writer actually wrote, I'd say from Paste Magazine, did a review of her album, and it was less than favorable, let's just say.
Okay.
Right? Something he does for a living, tons of people do, but was actually concerned about his safety so much that he did it anonymously.
Okay.
Right? He wrote this review anonymously, and this was for the Tortured Poets album, the most recent one. So I know you. When I saw this story, I said this is a good question to ask Jay, because of all the people that I know, I don't know if I know anyone that doesn't give a damn about what people think more than my boy Jay. So I'm wondering, would you, if you were this writer, writing a less than favorable review of Taylor Swift's album, would you, for concern purposes, attach your name to it, or would you have did this story the same way that this writer did?
So I don't know who this writer is. I don't know how, because this has a lot to do with it.
It's anonymous.
Anonymous. That's what anonymous means, right? That's true.
Right.
Well, what I mean when I say I don't know who it is, I would have to know who it is to answer your question correctly. Let's just say that I'm a new writer, right? I'm a new writer. And I'm trying to make it in this business as a journalist, as a writer, in entertainment news. Actually, Taylor Swift actually has her own reporter. And so does Beyonce. They have their own dedicated reporter. They got hired for this job, right? So let's just say I'm a new reporter, new journalist, and I'm covering this story and I want to make a name for myself, there is no way in hell I am putting my name there and writing something negative about Taylor Swift.
Let me ask you something. Pause right there for a second.
Okay.
If you're a new writer, would it be beneficial for you to attach your name to it?
A negative?
Even if it's a negative review to kind of help blow you up. So now we're talking about, even if we're pulling arrows out of our quiver and shooting them at you, now we know who you are. What do you say to that?
No, that's a good point. Because you can strike a name for yourself doing something so great or doing something so bad. Because, if the Swifties are all coming at you, because they will, it'll get your name out there initially, Kay. Initially. So you'll have your, what do they call it? Your 15 minutes of fame?
Yeah.
So you can have your 15 minutes of fame for trashing, entertainment's golden child, platinum child. Yeah, you want your 15 minutes? Sure, you can take it. But then what happens when that 15 minutes is up?
Right.
Your ass is cooked. You're goosed. No one will ever hire you again as a writer for their publication, because no one's going to even want to give you that chance because you trash America's golden child.
So you know something about this, being on this media side. Do the powers that be, right, these PR folks, PR reps, do they have long memories? And is this an incestuous business? Or would you get iced out? Could you kind of get blacklisted and all? Or is that conspiracy thought? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I've interviewed plenty of celebrities, right? And I deal with publicists all day long, right? And I've literally done interviews with them, and they've sent them back the tape or whatever. Or I actually don't send them all back tape, but they're watching some of the interviews. They're on the other end of the Zoom call, or they're in the studio or whatever, and they've come to me and they've said, Jason, can you not air that, particular question or whatever like that? And then I have to decide to myself, is it worth it? Is it really worth it for me to air that topic, air that question? Is it that important for me to do it? And then I make that decision based upon who that publicist is to me, what kind of relationship I have with them, how many different acts that they have. Because if I piss off a publicist that has, Strahan and, Kim Kardashian and, Lady Gaga or whatever like that, why would I want to do that? Because she will never hook me up with another interview with any of her other artists. So sometimes you have to say to yourself, yeah, I really want to get that in, but you know what? It's not worth it.
So what do you say to that? This is great insight.
Yeah.
So what would you say? And I know this, and I'm asking for the sake of the audience. You have those that make a business, right? That have made their names of stirring the pot, right? Of creating chaos. Right? How do those folks become so successful and maintain their kind of this level of celebrity if they're doing exactly what you're saying not to do?
Right. Well, sometimes you do have to take that chance, like you said to your point earlier. Sometimes you do have to stir the pot. And guess what? Sometimes it will work. Sometimes it will not. It all goes back to the relationships that you have with these publicists and agents and managers and things like that. Like, you have to know how to talk to people, right? And especially when you are writing stories or when you're interviewing these celebrities, there are topics that you have to touch on that that may not be comfortable with the next person to jump onto and to discuss. But as a respected journalist, you got to bring these things up, right? And you have to do certain things. But you just have to make sure you nurture that relationship and just be able to touch on topics that are not so popular with fan bases like this, like the Swifties or not, and just be good at your job. Be good at your job. Be good at what you do. And I think if you're doing that at the end of the day, eventually you will be able to maybe work for another publication if this writer decides that they want to trash Swift. I personally wouldn't do it. Sometimes if I listen, as you know, I keep it real. But if I listen to a Taylor Swift album, if I listen to a Beyonce album, and listen, I know Beyonce's father, Matthew. I've interviewed him. I know him very well. Let's say I don't think her concert was great or whatever. I'm just probably, because I know I'm not a great businessman like you, but I'm a pretty good businessman. I'm just not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to be that truthful. I ain't that dumb to be truthful to say like, hey, Matthew, I didn't really like Beyonce's album. I just so happened to like her music, right? But if I was on the other end, I wouldn't do that. You just got to be very careful.
Right.
You got to be careful. Play it safe.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'll say this, the last thing I'll say in this topic, the Swifties.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know if you shout them out or scold them for really putting the fear in people, man, right? Like, it really is. That's a real thing, right? That's a real thing. In order to go anonymous, and we've seen how they can be in the Twitter space, on the social media platforms. So it is interesting that now they're influencing people to the level of, I don't want no smoke.
Yeah, right.
I don't want no smoke. Like, this is a pop artist.
Yeah.
And these are their fans.
Right.
But it's kind of like a cult gang kind of like, people are like, nah, I don't even want it.